A flower pot may seem like a simple object, just a container to hold soil and roots, but in truth, it is a small living home. For anyone who has spent years tending plants, watching seasons turn, and learning patience through growth and loss, the flower pot becomes something deeper, a quiet partnership between human care and natural resilience. When we understand flower pots properly, how they work, what they need, and what they offer, we begin to see that good pot care is not about perfection. It is about balance, attentiveness, and respect for living systems. At its most basic level, a flower pot has 3 jobs. First, it provides structure, giving roots a defined space to anchor and grow. Second, it manages water, holding enough moisture for life while allowing excess to escape. Third, it protects roots from environmental stress, whether that stress comes from heat, cold, wind, or poor soil conditions. Every decision we make about a pot, its material, size, drainage, placement, affects how well it performs these jobs. Many gardeners, especially later in life, come to appreciate flower pots for their kindness to the body. Pots lift plants closer to eye level, reduce bending, and allow gardening on patios, porches, balconies, and windowsills. They make it possible to garden with intention rather than strain. But with this convenience comes responsibility. Potted plants rely on us more than plants in the ground. A pot is a closed world. What goes in and what is forgotten matters greatly. Let us begin with materials, because the material of a flower pot quietly shapes nearly everything else. Clay and terracotta pots are among the oldest forms, used for thousands of years. They are breathable, allowing air and moisture to pass through their walls. This breathability helps prevent root rot and encourages strong root systems, but it also means water evaporates faster. In warm or dry climates, terracotta pots may require more frequent watering. For older gardeners, this can be both a blessing and a challenge. The pot tells you when it is dry by changing color, but it also asks for consistent attention. Ceramic pots, often glazed, retain moisture longer and offer decorative beauty. Their sealed surfaces slow evaporation, which is helpful for moisture-loving plants. However, they can be heavier, especially once filled with soil and water. Weight is an important consideration. A pot that is too heavy becomes a burden rather than a joy. Many experienced gardeners choose ceramic pots for permanent placements and lighter materials for anything that needs moving. Plastic and resin pots are lightweight, affordable, and widely available. Modern versions can mimic stone or clay while remaining easy on aging hands and backs. These pots hold moisture longer and warm up quickly in spring. However, because they do not breathe, they depend entirely on proper drainage holes. Without drainage, even the best soil will fail. A wise gardener always checks the bottom of a pot before planting. No hole, no forgiveness. Metal pots, while stylish, require caution. They heat up quickly in sun and can damage roots during hot weather. If used, they are best as decorative outer containers with a plastic pot inside, creating insulation between metal and soil. Wood containers offer insulation and natural beauty, but they eventually decay. Lining them properly can extend their life and protect roots from harmful chemicals in treated wood. Size is another feature that deserves thoughtful attention. A pot that is too small restricts roots, dries out quickly, and causes stress that shows up as yellow leaves or poor flowering. A pot that is too large holds excess moisture, increasing the risk of root rot. The right size allows roots to grow comfortably while maintaining even moisture. As a general rule, choose a pot that is 1 to 2 inches wider than the plant's root ball for small plants, and 2 to 4 inches wider for larger ones. Bigger is not always better. Comfortable is better. Depth matters as much as width. Shallow-rooted plants like herbs and some flowers do well in shorter pots, while deep-rooted plants such as tomatoes, roses, or citrus require depth to anchor themselves and access moisture. Observing a plant's natural growth habit teaches us what kind of home it prefers. Gardening, after all, is largely the art of listening. Drainage is the single most important feature of any flower pot. Without it, even perfect soil and careful watering cannot save a plant. Roots need oxygen as much as water. When water fills all the air spaces in soil and has nowhere to escape, roots suffocate. This is why seasoned gardeners say, "Most plants are not killed by drought, but by kindness." Overwatering without drainage is kindness that harms. A well-designed pot has at least one drainage hole, preferably several. Placing a small piece of mesh, a coffee filter, or a shard of broken pottery over the hole keeps soil from escaping while allowing water to flow freely. Contrary to old myths, filling the bottom of a pot with gravel does not improve drainage. It creates a perched water table that keeps roots wetter. Uniform soil from top to bottom drains best. Soil itself is part of the pot's feature set. Garden soil does not belong in pots. It compacts, drains poorly, and carries pests. Potting mix is lighter, designed to hold moisture while allowing airflow. Many older gardeners find peace in mixing their own blend. A base of potting mix, added perlite for air, and compost for gentle nutrition. This simple mixture supports roots without overwhelming them. Watering practices must adapt to life in a pot. Unlike garden beds, pots dry out faster and more unevenly. Sun, wind, material, and plant size all affect water needs. The best tool remains the human finger. Press it into the soil up to the first knuckle. If it feels dry, water. If it feels cool and moist, wait. This method respects the plant's rhythm rather than a calendar. When watering, water deeply. A light sprinkle encourages shallow roots. A thorough soak until water runs from the drainage hole ensures the entire root system receives moisture. Then allow the pot to drain fully. Empty saucers if necessary. Standing water is an invitation to disease. Placement is another quiet feature of flower pot success. Pots allow us to move plants into ideal conditions, but they also expose them to extremes. A pot on hot concrete may overheat. A pot in constant wind dries quickly. A pot pressed against a wall may receive reflected heat or cold. Observing microclimates around your home is one of the great pleasures of experienced gardening. Morning sun, afternoon shade, shelter from wind. These are gifts we can give simply by choosing the right spot. Seasonal care matters as well. In summer, pots may need daily attention. In winter, they need protection. Roots in pots experience cold more intensely than roots in the ground. Insulating pots with burlap, moving them closer to walls, or grouping them together helps retain warmth. In very cold regions, some pots are best emptied and stored, while hardy plants are overwintered in sheltered spots. Feeding potted plants requires moderation. Nutrients wash out of pots more quickly than garden soil, but too much fertilizer causes more harm than good. Slow-release fertilizers or diluted liquid feeds work best. Many older gardeners adopt a gentle rule. Feed lightly, observe closely. Healthy plants speak through their leaves. Finally, there is the emotional feature of flower pots. something rarely discussed but deeply felt. Pots invite us to slow down. They sit where we pass each day. They ask for small, regular acts of care. In return, they offer beauty, memory, and continuity. A pot may hold the same plant for years, becoming a quiet companion through changing seasons of life. To care for a flower pot is to care for a small world. When we choose thoughtfully, water wisely, and observe patiently, that world thrives. And in tending it, we often find that something in us grows calmer, steadier, and more rooted as well. A flower pot's final lesson is not really about soil, water, or materials. It is about continuity. Over time, as we live with our pots and plants, we begin to see that a flower pot is not a disposable object. It is part of a long relationship, one that mirrors our own seasons of strength, adjustment, and renewal. One of the most important long-term practices in flower pot care is repotting. Repotting is not a failure or a sign that something has gone wrong. It is a natural progression. Roots grow, soil settles, nutrients deplete, and even the best potting mix eventually loses its structure. Most potted plants benefit from repotting every 1 to 3 years, depending on growth rate. Slower-growing plants may stay content longer. Fast growers will ask for space sooner. The signs that a plant is ready to be repotted are gentle but clear. Water may run straight through without soaking in. Roots may circle the surface or push through drainage holes. Growth may slow despite proper care. When you see these signs, the plant is not complaining. It is asking politely for room to breathe. Repotting should always be done with calm hands and patience. Choose a pot only slightly larger than the current one. Too much space too soon can overwhelm roots. Loosen the root ball gently, teasing rather than tearing. Replace old soil with fresh, well-aerated mix. Water thoroughly, then allow the plant to rest in indirect light for a few days. This recovery period is often overlooked, yet it makes all the difference. Another long-term feature of good flower pot care is observation over intervention. Many problems resolve themselves if we simply pause. Yellowing leaves may be old growth naturally shedding. Drooping may signal temporary thirst rather than disease. In our later years, one of our greatest gardening strengths is restraint. We have learned, often through hard-earned experience, that doing less at the right moment is wiser than doing more too quickly. Common mistakes in flower pot care are nearly always rooted in good intentions. Overwatering is the most frequent. It comes from kindness and concern, not neglect. Remember that roots need air as much as moisture. Letting soil dry slightly between waterings is not cruelty. It is oxygen. Another mistake is constant rearranging. Plants do not like to be moved daily. Light changes, temperature shifts, and drafts create stress. Once you find a spot where a plant looks settled, leaves facing the light, stems upright, try to let it stay. Stability encourages strength. Fertilizer misuse is another quiet troublemaker. More fertilizer does not mean faster or better growth. It often leads to salt buildup in pots, which burns roots. If you see white crust on the soil surface or pot rim, it is time to flush the pot with plain water and reduce feeding. Gentle, diluted nutrition applied less often supports long-term health far better than strong, frequent doses. Cleaning and maintaining the pots themselves is a practice many gardeners come to value deeply. Washing pots between uses prevents disease. Inspecting for cracks prevents sudden failures. Choosing pots that age well, developing patina rather than damage, adds character to your garden space. Some older gardeners keep certain pots for decades, remembering the plants that once lived there. In this way, flower pots become quiet memory holders. Seasonal transitions bring their own wisdom. In spring, pots invite renewal. In summer, they teach vigilance. In autumn, they encourage preparation. In winter, they remind us of protection and rest. A flower pot that sits empty for a season is not wasted. It is waiting. Rest is part of the cycle. For many older adults, flower pots also become tools of connection. A pot on a windowsill invites conversation. A plant shared with a neighbor builds community. A cutting given to a grandchild carries more than roots. It carries continuity. Gardening in pots allows us to pass on living things, not just stories. There is also dignity in adapting how we garden. Using lighter pots, raised containers, rolling caddies, and self-watering systems is not giving in to age. It is gardening intelligently. The goal is not to struggle, but to continue. Flower pots make that possible. They meet us where we are. Perhaps the greatest feature of a flower pot is that it teaches us presence. You cannot rush a plant. You cannot argue with roots. You must notice, adjust, and wait. In a world that often values speed, a flower pot invites slowness. In caring for something living in a small space, we practice attentiveness, and that practice returns calm to us. In the end, a well-cared-for flower pot is not judged by perfection. It may have chipped edges, mineral stains, or uneven growth. These are not flaws. They are signs of use, of life lived. A pot that has supported growth has done its job. To care for flower pots over the long term is to accept change without fear. Plants grow, decline, rest, and renew. So do we. When we understand this, flower pot care becomes more than gardening. It becomes a quiet philosophy, one rooted in patience, respect, and the deep satisfaction of nurturing life in manageable, meaningful ways. And that, perhaps, is why flower pots remain with us through the years. They remind us that even in small spaces with simple tools, life can continue to flourish. Steadily, gently, and beautifully.